Hi there, fellow bakers and pie lovers. Today we're diving into the world of gluten-free baking, and I've got a real treat in store for you, gluten-free pumpkin pie. Thanksgiving just wouldn't be complete without it. Am I right? Whether you're a gluten-free eater or hosting a gluten-free guest this holiday season, I've got all the tips and tricks that you'll need to whip up this smooth and rich pumpkin pie with a homemade gluten-free pie crust that'll have everyone begging for seconds. And guess what? Nobody will even be able to tell that it's gluten-free. I recently made a life-changing decision to go gluten-free after following some fantastic advocates on treating hypothyroidism and reading numerous books on the subject. The consistent message was clear. If you're not feeling your best, removing gluten from your diet is the best thing to do, as it can be a game changer. So this Thanksgiving, I've decided to make a gluten-free feast, starting with the star of the show, the pie. And that begins with a fantastic gluten-free pie crust, perfect for this classic pumpkin pie recipe. I found this incredible pie crust recipe over at Meaningful Eats by the talented blogger Erin Collins. Now, Erin emphasizes the importance of using the listed ingredients and following the directions to the T, and she tested it many times to get it just right. Let's talk about the key ingredients for our gluten-free pie crust. You're going to want to use a high-quality 1-to-1 gluten-free baking flour that contains xanthan gum. Trust me, it makes all the difference.
You'll find a link for this recipe in the video description below, but I'm going to walk you through the process really quickly. You're going to start with 3 tablespoons of ice water, 1.5 teaspoons of white vinegar, and 1.5 tablespoons of sour cream.
This is a secret weapon for giving the dough that perfect stability and the beautiful golden brown color that we all love.
And you're going to combine those 3 ingredients into a small bowl and whisk until smooth, and then set aside.
When it comes to making this incredible pie crust, I love to use the food processor. It's quick and reliable, but hey, you can also go old school and cut in that butter by hand using a fork or a pastry cutter. Both will work.
Next, you're going to add 1 cup and 2 tablespoons of gluten-free 1-to-1 baking flour, then 1 teaspoon of sugar and 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and then add in 8 tablespoons of butter that are slightly frozen. Pulse until the batter is the size of large peas, about 10 pulses. Add the sour cream mixture and pulse until the mixture begins to clump around the blade, about another 10 pulses. If the mixture doesn't clump after 10 pulses, no worries. Pour it into a bowl and smash it together with your hands to form a ball. Turn the dough out onto a piece of plastic wrap, gather it into a flat disc, and wrap it tightly in the plastic wrap.
So here's the crucial part. We need to let that pie dough chill in the fridge for at least an hour or even overnight. This step allows the dough to hydrate and form a perfect cohesive ball. After the chilling time, let it sit at room temperature for 15 minutes before rolling it out.
Gluten-free pie dough is a bit more delicate than the regular kind. My pro tip: roll it between plastic wrap for an easy transfer to the pie plate. Once it's perfectly rolled out, peel off the top layer of wrap and then carefully invert the crust onto your pie plate. Then peel off the remaining plastic wrap, trim the edges, and shape the crust as you normally would. Next, you want to wrap the shaped pie crust loosely in plastic wrap and place it in the freezer for 15 minutes or up to an hour until it's chilled and firm.
Now let's talk about the star of the show. That is the gluten-free pumpkin pie filling. It's a timeless classic and it's super easy to make.
In a medium bowl, whisk together sugar, cinnamon, ginger, cloves, and salt. That's 2/3 cup of white sugar, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, a half a teaspoon of ginger, a quarter teaspoon of cloves, a half a teaspoon of salt. Be sure to use 100% pumpkin puree, not pumpkin pie filling, for this recipe. The amount of pumpkin puree you're going to need is 15 ounces. Next, add 2 eggs to the pumpkin puree and also 12 ounces, 1 can of evaporated milk, or 1 cup of full-fat coconut milk, and then whisk those 3 wet ingredients together. And the last step is to take the dry ingredients, add them to the wet ingredients until they are fully combined. Now pour that delicious pumpkin pie filling into the prepared pie shell. If you have any extra, pour it into ramekins if needed.
Make sure that you freeze that pie crust for 15 minutes. You want it to be super cold before it meets the hot oven.
Your oven will have been preheated to 425 degrees Fahrenheit, and you're going to bake it at that temperature for 15 minutes. Then you're going to reduce the heat to 350 degrees Fahrenheit and bake for another 40 to 50 minutes until the custard is set. And there it is, our gluten-free pumpkin pie, just about ready to eat. It now needs to cool on a wire rack for 2 hours.
Personally, I'm a fan of serving it chilled, straight from the fridge, but it's just as delightful at room temperature. Remember this, pumpkin pie is best enjoyed fresh. It doesn't freeze well. But if you want to get ahead, you can make the pie crust 2 days in advance, and the pie itself can also be prepared 2 days ahead of your Thanksgiving feast. Thanks for joining me in the kitchen today as we whipped up this delectable gluten-free pumpkin pie. If you're excited to try it out, be sure to hit that like button. And don't forget to subscribe. Happy baking, everyone, and have a fantastic gluten-free Thanksgiving.